And today we have Mrs. Ashley Dunn. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about her. She is an entertainment news journalist, writer, and fashion expert, and podcast host of Undone with Ashley Dunn. With over 10 years of experience in front and behind the camera, covering the intersections of entertainment and fashion. Ashley has covered countless red carpets, including high-profile movie premieres and entertainment events, and interviewed the who's who celebrities in Hollywood. Ashley has worked with networks including NBC, CBS, ABC, and Freeform. So let's give her a warm welcome. We're so happy that you're here and here to give us a little bit of your wisdom.
I'm here to impart whatever I can. Thank y'all for having me. This is good that y'all are doing this, by the way.
Thank you. So we always like to start it off with a little icebreaker. So what song or movie would you use to describe your life during the pandemic and why?
Ooh, okay. Wait now, Caylin. Okay, you off the okay. Ooh, let me see. What you said? What song and movie?
Song or movie?
Or
Like, is there
movie.
anything in particular that's like, yeah, this is me during this time period?
Oh Lord, that's a good one. I Will Survive. Glory, right? Because
Yeah.
first, when the pandemic hit a year ago, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Everything stopped for us in, terms of like red carpets and events and everything just stopped. And we weren't even doing like online, like interviews, Zoom.
Oh, wow.
At first. It was like, I think it took like maybe a month. I think we started doing Zoom in April, right? So I just was kind of like in a space of like, where are we? What's going to happen next? Like, I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I was thinking I will survive. And I think we are just about on the edge of the pandemic. So I would say that I survived. I didn't get COVID. Knock on wood, I haven't got my vaccine yet.
Right.
Yeah, I would describe it as I will survive.
You Caylin? You good, Caylin?
Yeah, that's awesome. We're all happy next week.
Yeah, you in and out. You gotta repeat that.
I'm sorry. I was saying that we're all out here trying to survive. We don't know what next week is going to bring. So yeah, that's basically all of us.
Yeah.
But my next question is, so it says that you're a vegan now. So how has this journey been for you? What is that like?
It's okay. So that's something I started in the pandemic. I started this year in January. So I do a fast every January with church, for religious purposes and just to start the year off, on a clean slate, getting closer to God, trying to hear about what He wants for me for the year. So anyway, I did the fast, and obviously in the fast we can't have any meat, any sweets, any liquor, any of that. And I had already been saying to myself in December, like during the pandemic, kind of was eating a little crazy, eating everything, and just the eating process and the eating habits were off. So I had already been saying to myself that I wanted to change course, after the fast. I didn't want to just go right back to eating how I was. And so with that, I decided to try the vegan lifestyle. And I will say that Caylin, it's been really good. Like the skin is glowing.
Oh, wow.
I love it. Like, and then at first I thought, oh my God, what am I going to eat? It's hard. But then I had one girl on my podcast who has this, a very creative magazine and platform. It's called Veg Out Los Angeles. And she was like a resource for me early on, like in terms of like, where can I go get like an Impossible burger and fries? Or where can I, I didn't want to feel like I was not enjoying the food. And I absolutely love the vegan lifestyle. It's good for me. I'm excited about it. Like I'm going on my 4th month and I can't complain. It's really good.
That's awesome. It's kind of like changing the way you eat really changes everything in your life because like that's something we have to do every day.
Yes.
So once you change that changes your whole routine. I totally get that. Speaking of the pandemic, professionally and just a lot of things that you have to do as a journalist, like how has this pandemic affected you?
It's made me tap in more to creative, right? Like it's made me tap into getting uncomfortable. Like I had been down that road before. As an entrepreneur, I started a company, a styling firm, like years ago. So I knew how to get uncomfortable, but then I had not been doing that for a while. So the pandemic forced me to have to get reacquainted with the uncomfortable lifestyle as well. And with that, it just forced me to, in terms of my work, like really sit down and really hone in on, who my subject is, what my subject is, who am I talking to, what am I trying to get out of the interview? Because I did a lot of red carpets prior to the pandemic, and red carpets are very different than long form interviews, right? They're really short, they're really fun, they're really like you got to get your moment for social media that will possibly go, live or viral if you want that, or just you want to get something from your subject on the carpet, right? And that's what I was used to doing, those long form interviews. And so I would do press junkets, and those even were still shorter because they were, like 3 to 4 minutes. You didn't have a lot of time. Yeah. But sitting down on Zoom in the pandemic, the interviews became to be very long, like hour-long interviews, right? But in those hour-long interviews, I felt that, okay, God is on to something here, right? These hour-long interviews, or the interviews are extended over a long period of time, and it gave me an opportunity to connect with my subject in a way that I hadn't gotten to do before on a red carpet. You really don't get a chance to connect. You're just really complimenting on the look. You're, again, driving home the message really, really fast. Having long form interviews gives you the opportunity to connect with your subject, the person you're interviewing, and also it gives you an opportunity to give something to the viewer who's going to watch it, right? Because in the pandemic, people wanted to see content like, their favorite celebrity and their, what were they doing during the pandemic and how are they getting through the pandemic? People wanted to watch those. And so I thought that that was very important for me to utilize that platform to get a message over to the viewer, and also to be able to share the subject story. And then in turn, I was able to oftentimes, many a times, even I had an interview this morning and I just left feeling like God was speaking to me through the interview, And so I would say that the pandemic really forced me to tap in and, sit with that and create long form content that would invoke some kind of message or some kind of feeling with the viewer, right?
Yeah. I think during the pandemic, it's allowed us to come up with new ways of doing things that we're going to take with us going forward. It just made us more innovative,
It did.
So speaking of working, how have you been able to stay motivated during this time? I feel like a lot of us were able to get a little relaxed. So trying to jump back into work and the swift of things has gotten a little hard. How have you been able to do it?
I stay motivated by going to God. I know I've said God a lot in this interview so far, or this talk, but that's my source, right? That's where I lean for all of my inspiration and just to get me through, because the pandemic wasn't easy, right? So obviously we had time off, or we had time where we were forced to sit down. But in that sitting down, I felt like that was an opportunity to check in with ourselves. Like, what is it that I'm really trying to do? What is it that what are my goals? Sit down and rewrite the goals, restructure. A lot of people had to pivot in this pandemic, including myself, pivoting from a red carpet to doing interviews in front of this wall. I can't count how many interviews I've done, sitting here. And, finding a way to still connect with, again, my subject, at home, right? And when the interview is over, you close your laptop and you're like, well, that was fun. Now what, right? And so I found it that God has been my resource to keep me motivated. And then sitting down and writing down what it is that I'm looking for from myself, right? Has been the thing. So.
Makes sense. I get that. It's during this time, you didn't want to feel as if you were doing nothing, especially when you're so used to doing something every second of every day. So
Right.
like trying to sit down and like just take a break, it was so hard for me because I'm like, I feel like I should be doing something. Like this is the time when everything is slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I think in that time of slowing down, I think that it was okay, right? A lot of people
Yeah,
like you had to be like on 10. And I think that what we learned or what I learned is it's okay to sit with those thoughts and like just process it. Even if it takes a day, if it takes 5 minutes, whatever it takes, I think that that's important that we tap into ourselves so that we can better serve and do the jobs that or the cause that we're called to do, right?
right. Because we can't do anything well if we're not like giving 100% to ourselves, because then
Right.
we're like half. Then what we do is going to be like half, and that's not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what made you want to pursue a career in journalism?
So since I was a child, I've been interested in entertainment, right? Like I was the magazine kid. I was the kid who thought movies were real people, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to be in that world, that space, because I thought Good Times was a real family, right? Until I learned, and then I was just very drawn to like Entertainment Tonight. I was very interested at a very young age, and I noticed that looking back. When I got to college, I majored in communications and I minored in fashion merchandising. And I always had a knack for style, always was the go-to girl for all things fashion and then all things, girl, did you hear about such and such or Brad Pitt or Nicole Richie or the girls at Laguna Beach and what's going on with them? You know, I was always the girl to talk about both fashion and entertainment. And so when I was in college, I started to pursue styling as a career. And I tried to get here to LA right after college, but I had to get a real job, right? Couldn't come right off the bat. And so I began working. I worked in retail, then I got me a corporate job, worked at this corporate job for 6 years. But over the course of the 6 years, I started to build that styling brand up, right? Because I knew that that styling could take me to where I am now. I knew that that was my avenue in which my car to get to where I am at this place, right? Because now you see everything merging together. Sports, entertainment, culture, fashion, it's all intertwined, right? And so I became an on-air expert in Houston in 2013. And it was from there that I started being on camera, being on TV, on the news, doing, my segments on what to wear, what's new in culture, what's new in fashion, what's new in entertainment. And that led me to where I am here in LA. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. So could you tell us a little bit about your experience at Prairie View A&M?
So that's where I would say I pledged Delta my sophomore year, 2002. That's where I grew up, right? That's where I became a woman, a young woman, right? Like beginning to find herself, beginning to build a confidence for myself. And it was there that, I began to I saw me living in LA while I was at Prairie View, right? Again, I told you that was where I wanted to move after college, but I didn't get to. And so I feel like that was the place where I just began doing what I could do, because nobody's journey is singular. I think I posted this the other day. The roads are windy. So your route or your road to the dream is going to look different. It's not going to be, well, you did A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if for some people it happens like that, that's good. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to make some adjustments and some pivots along the way, right? And so Prairie View was my start into putting myself out there with what I'm good at. That was my first time putting myself out there with what I was good at. I was good at fashion. I worked on the newspaper there. So I, again, did both. That's kind of been my, they've always mixed, right? And that's where it started for me. Prairie View was the place where I grew up, my HBCU. I wouldn't be who I am today. And I mean that. I would not be the woman that I am today, the 37-year-old woman sitting and talking to you beautiful people today, had I not gone to Prairie View, had I not chosen that route for myself, because that's where I grew up. That's where I learned confidence in myself. That's where I learned to began to have faith, right? It was like
Yeah.
parents. I know y'all can attest to this. No, your parents aren't there. You're at school. You're by yourself. You have to make things happen for yourself and
Right.
for you. And that's where everything pretty much began for me.
That's awesome. So
Hmm.
could you tell us a little bit about your experience as a reporter and correspondent in Houston?
Yes. So basically in Houston, what I did was I was on air talent. So I was on the news. I did multiple segments for Fox, Great Day Houston, ABC there, Houston Life. What I would do is I would come on and talk about style, like what to wear, what are the 5 things to wear for New Year's, or what are, what places should I be shopping at, what's coming up on the awards, who's up for what movie. And that's what I would do when I was there in Houston. And I always say Houston was my place that prepared me for LA. Houston was the place that prepared me for, doing the interviews and doing the things that I'm doing now. Because had I not had that experience,
Right.
that I wouldn't be prepared to, I wouldn't know how to be live on camera, on live TV. I wouldn't know how to read teleprompter. I wouldn't know how to do any of those things. And so basically, Houston was the market for me that built me. So that's why I always say start where you are. A lot of people want to go to LA right off the bat, like I did.
Right.
And that wasn't for me, right? God had another plan for me, and it all makes sense at the end, right? And so, had I not done Houston again, I would not be prepared for where I am now. And basically, how it came about was I had been reaching out to producers, right? Like cold calling me and sending emails, finding them on LinkedIn. And this is like prior to me getting on, right? So, like 2010, I'm looking them up, trying to see who's what. And I didn't get an opportunity to be on camera until 2013, and that was by mistake, right?
Oh, wow.
So God is in the midst. I was doing a segment, but I was styling the segment only, right? So I was only there to style. So I had everything, had the models, had all of the clothes, everything, had the girls dressed. Last minute, they asked me, can you be on camera to talk through these looks? And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't plan on doing this, God. This is not how I anticipated. But that's why you have to always be ready, right? For the thing you're praying for and the thing you're believing for, because you don't know how and when it will come, right? I didn't think it would come at that moment. Like last minute, I wasn't ready. I wasn't dressed. I was in sweats. I was like, oh, Lord, let me get myself together real quick.
Right.
And got myself together. And that led to me becoming an on-air personality in Houston.
Oh, wow. It's crazy how things will just work out for you when you least expect it.
Right.
So you work at Where's the Buzz Media as a reporter and producer. What are your day-to-day activities in that role?
Interviews, writing, movie reviews, watching movies. Pretty much that's my day-to-day. So I have to watch a lot of movies. I get a lot of screeners where I have to watch a film prior to me doing an interview. A press junket is what they call them. And it looks a lot like this now that we're in Zoom, in the Zoom world. But prior to the pandemic, it would be set up in a hotel. They would have multiple outlets. You would see your Entertainment Tonight's, your E-News, that we would all be, together, and then they'll call your outlet. You get 3 to 5 minutes to interview the talent, and then that's it. So after the interview, then you have to do a write-up on it. So that goes on the site, and then that's what you get, right? Does somebody have a question? What's the best movie you watched and covered this year? Should I answer that now, or?
You can.
Okay.
Why are you talking about it, right?
I would say it's so ironic because the Amazon Prime, the horror movie by Lena Waithe and Little Marvin. Have you guys heard about it?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds familiar.
It's coming on Amazon on April 9th. That was really good. It was very scary. A lot of people compared it to Us. They got a lot of, social media buzzing about it, saying, okay, this looks like an Us film, but it's definitely not. But it's a really, really good, it's not even a film, it's a series. But it's a really good series. So that's one that I watched recently that I really liked. Did I answer your
So
question though?
yeah, I think you did. You write, you do interviews.
Yes,
That's typically
right.
your everyday
Yes, yes.
activities.
So everyday activity, and every day is different, right? With where it
Yeah.
was. So today, like I had an interview this morning, with the guy from Netflix's The Family Reunion. Have y'all seen that show with Tia?
Yeah.
Interview
Uh-huh.
this morning. We had like a Zoom hiccup, as we do sometimes,
Oh,
right? So we had to start
yeah,
over, but it ended up being a really, really good interview. But like I said, no day is the same. Every day is different. But that's pretty much what I do. Do write-ups, do interviews, and in doing interviews, it's not just okay, I have an interview. I'm gonna wake up and do it in the morning. It's preparing for the interview. It's sitting
yeah,
down, doing however long it takes to get the right information and then
mhm.
crafting your interview so that it flows. Not like just asking random questions. So what you have on? Well, so what? Who
Right.
and that goes back
Yeah,
wanting to make sure that the viewer is able to connect with the interview and also that I'm getting the story of my subject out in the best way possible, right? So it's a lot of
right.
work.
And you want it to flow like a conversation. Like you don't want it to seem forced and like really choppy. Yeah.
Right. So that's going back in. I have so many, y'all, I have so many like pads and notepads all over the place. But,
Mhm.
you can draft up your questions and like sometimes you go back in and scratch them all out and then you'll have to go back in and rewrite them. So it's very
Yeah.
time consuming because in anything that you're doing, you want to make sure that you're doing it well. And I was taught
Yeah.
this in a class that I took when I came to LA. When I first got here, I took a class, an on-air talent class or what have you. And they talked about when it comes to your reel, you should always be thinking about your reel in your interviews, right? So when you're doing something, when you're on camera, you should be considering, okay, could this work for my reel? So that if you have that in mind, you're going to make sure that your flow is good from point A to B, right? Point A,
Mhm.
B, C, and D, and on down, right? So,
Yeah. So, as young journalists coming out of college, they may not get their dream job right after they graduate. What is some advice that you can give us about working towards that goal?
um, do it. Like you don't have to. The road is different. It's different now, right? From when I
Yeah.
was getting out of college in 2006 to 2021. It's completely
Yeah.
different. You can get on your camera phone and talk about what news is, what's going on in the world of entertainment. If you wanted to talk about music, if you want to talk about sports, you can put your phone on a stand and talk about it and put it out there. Because that's
Mhm.
the thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to get out there. Somebody needs to see
Right.
it, right? You can't just keep it to yourself. So in that, don't wait for somebody to, don't wait for E to call you. Don't wait for the big networks to call you. Get busy doing what you can with what you have. And that's the
Right.
best advice I can give. You have a phone, you have a computer, use it. Reach out to people. See if they're looking for interns. Reach out to other brands or media outlets that are small or that are medium, and see if they need somebody and get hands-on experience. But that's the key. You have to do the work, or you won't learn.
Mhm.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a podcast called the Undone Podcast, and you also have a video interview series called 101 with Ashley Dunn. Can you
Yes.
talk about the reason for starting the visual and audio venture, and why do you select the guests to bring on?
Okay. I think I heard that last part. Caylin, you must be in a bad area. I'm gonna go ahead and answer the beginning part. I think it. Did you hear it, Derrian?
Yeah, it's ooh. Can you talk about the reason for starting a visual and audio venture and why do you select the guests you bring on?
Okay. So one-on-one with Ashley Dunn was an interview. It's an IG live series that I created in conjunction with Where is the Buzz, right? And so that's pretty much where we have talent come on and I interview them. And it's pretty much one-on-one. And it's one-on-one with Ashley Dunn. It's usually with Where's the Buzz. And basically we pick our talent just by, a lot of times they'll reach out to us. Publicists will reach out. We will reach out to publicists and see if they want to get their talent on the show. And that was started in the pandemic. Undone with Ashley Dunn, my podcast, was also started during the pandemic. And with my podcast, is very different from what I do with my work as a reporter, because with Undone, it's a lot more lax, it's a lot more free, and it's a lot more being vulnerable and transparent, right? It's still the same message of subject and driving home the message to the viewer, but it's a lot more where it's inspired. It's an inspirational series, right? And it's for everybody, but mostly I've had women on. I've had, female founders. I've had book authors, and I picked these people because, their story resonated with me. And I'm so excited about my little podcast that could. But yeah, those both were started in the pandemic. And the podcast I had planned to start in 2019, but I didn't. And 2020 was the year that I said, okay, I'm going to get busy while we were in quarantine, get busy and prepare to get this out. And so that's what I did.
I got you. And Caylin just texted me and said she connected, so I could take over if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So to continue the interview, I like to say I appreciate that. I have a podcast of my own, so hearing you and your experiences with the one-on-one series and having a podcast of your own is really dope to me.
What's your podcast?
The Pack Life Podcast. It's a sports entertainment podcast.
Okay, I love it.
Thank you. In your experience, what's the difference between working in front of the camera and behind the scenes?
The difference with being on camera is being ready, but the behind the scenes is still the same. You have to be ready. You just may not have to put on red lipstick, and that's my go-to is my lipstick and being done right. But this work consists of both. Even if you are off camera and you say, well, I'm not going to be on the camera. You don't ever know if an opportunity may come up and you're asked to be on camera. So be prepared for that, right? Be prepared to be off camera. There's a lot more work goes on off camera than it does on camera. I'll say that. Look, the majority of the work happens when you are preparing for an interview, when you're doing a write-up, when you're watching a movie with the intent to craft an interview question. Not like I'm watching a movie with popcorn so I can enjoy myself, but I'm watching this film and I'm saying, okay, that happened. They did this, the score, and this, and this, and this. So it's more work that happens off the camera than it is that happens on. So I just say you can't escape either one. And then, like I said, if you're off camera and that's where you want to focus, you just never know if you will have to be the one to be on camera. What if your reporter gets sick and you're the producer and you're like you have to be prepared to, okay, well, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're live from whatever, you know what I mean? So
that's with being well-rounded journalists, not just worrying about the production or writing side, just being able to, if you have to go on TV, be prepared for that role, right?
You have to. We're not doing this just to say, I only want to do this. That's out the window, right? We all have skills and things that we're good at, but we all have things that we can prepare ourselves for in case, like the pandemic taught us that, if nothing else, right? That things come up and things happen, and how are you going to, navigate in the space of uncertainty or navigate in the space that you're not used to or comfortable with? So being a well-rounded journalist is that, being able to know how to do all points of what it is that, you're covering.
To get into some of your not struggles, but pitfalls maybe, or obstacles and things like that. What are some struggles you faced early on as a journalist that helped to get you where you are today?
People are not taking me serious because I look young. People discounted me. I was told that I was only a red carpet reporter. It's like, what does that even mean? Oh, well, I only do junkets. You're just a red carpet reporter. Okay. And now, the same person that told me that, I'll see them commenting or, saying different things on like some of my other interviews. But being able to be comfortable on camera, that was something that I had to get used to, because it's not like you just, I don't care how much personality you have, how much wit, oh, I'm ready for the, camera. It's something that you have to prepare for. It's something that you have to practice, 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 practice. So that was the struggle, just finding my fit. Like, how do I fit? What is my best side? How do I, get this? How do I look directly in the camera and, convey a point or convey, a message? So getting out of my head was a struggle that I had to deal with, and also telling and learning, telling myself and also learning that it's okay to make a mistake, right? Again, we're not perfect. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna have a hiccup. You're gonna have some kind of fall, and it's how you get back up from it that will then help you for when you fall again. Because you're not gonna only fall once or twice or three times. It's gonna be several falls, right? And each time you fall and get back up, it's like each time helps you and prepares you for the next. But those were struggles that I faced, early on. Is just being, able to be confident on camera, getting my point across, getting my message across, making sure that my questions made sense, like not having generic questions. And this is the biggest thing. I know we all love Oprah, right?
Right.
We all love Oprah. We all love Tamron Hall. We all have our person who we admired, or our people who we admired as journalists, or reporters on TV, or even not on TV. You have to get comfortable with how you do it, right? Don't go into an interview, and I've done it before, trying to sound or be like Oprah or the next person. It's not going to work. The person is going to know, and it's the interview or your subject it's not going to feel right. So I encourage everybody to always find what works for you, right? Find your job, find your stride, find the way, what we all know, like things that are our strengths. Find what your strength is and capitalize on it. What do people tell you when you're interviewing them, or when you're reporting, or when you're writing? What do you hear? What's the feedback that you get? If you don't hear feedback, ask for it. You know what I mean? That will better help prepare you. But those are some of the things that I struggled with early on. Not to mention finances, but that's a whole other thing.
And with struggles, it sometimes comes rejection. How do you overcome rejection when, like, for example, a pitch or your story is not accepted at a publication?
Ooh, child. The rejection, oh my God, it's real. And for me, it hasn't necessarily been that my story was rejected or anything like that. It was me trying to go after, the job that I wanted, right? With the company that I wanted to be with, with the, media company and then you're told to wait, or you're told not right now, that doesn't feel good, especially when you know that you've been busting your butt, you've been doing all the things, you've been doing you've gotten the feedback, you've checked the boxes. That still doesn't negate the fact that when you get the no, or when you get told not right now, that doesn't negate the fact that it's a blow to you. And so you have to sit with that blow. And I've had to sit with many a blows and cry it out, right? Like, cry it out, get it out, and keep it going, right? Because you can't sit there for too long. It's like, but you do have to sit in it and feel it. And then, okay, what's next? Because the thing is, with all the rejection, there is a yes with your name on it.
Right.
So you can have 100 no's, 100, and it's like all from people that you really wanted. And then there's this big yes waiting for you with a big red bow on it from a company or from somebody that you didn't even expect. But you're like, oh yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? So again, I feel like, we have to go through rejection. We have to experience that for us to, appreciate the yes, with the big red bow on it. But that's how I processed it.
Got you. And to take a step back from you, away from your profession, with everything going on in the world today, I know that the case of the murder of George Floyd case is now in trial right now. Have you been able to prioritize your mental health?
You know, I started watching the trial on Monday, and I was very emotional. Haven't been able to watch every day, but I started the first day, and I will watch different clips. But it's very disheartening to see, right? Because we already saw it last year, right? But then seeing it again, it just makes you, as a Black person, as a Black woman, hope for more, right? But in your back of your mind, you're saying to yourself that even with all of this evidence that's out, there's still a possibility that this man could walk free, right? And so that's in the back of your head. You know what I mean? But seeing it play out all over again, it's like you can't watch it. But you have to be informed. As journalists, we have to be informed. We have to know. But it's very hard to sit and watch. Like, that's it.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. With all your accomplishments, with all your accomplishments that you have today, who has influenced you to become who you are today?
Who has influenced me? My mom has been very influential. I've had a lot of people to be influential in my life. My dad was the first entrepreneur that I saw. He was an attorney, and he started his own practice. My sisters, my husband, I have several people in my life. My family, right? They're the inspiration for me. They're the reasons that I fight to not give up, because they've been on the journey with me, right? And if I give up, that's selfish, because they've invested in the dream just as much as I have, right? And so I'm very influenced and inspired by them and by their support in my life.
Got you. What are some things that you learned in the industry that wasn't taught at school?
Everything. A lot. Most of everything. And keep in mind, Prairie View didn't have the best journalists. Shout out to my school, my HBCU. I love my school, but they didn't have at that time, 2001 through when I graduated in 2006, it wasn't the best program. I think the program now is better. So a lot of the stuff I've learned trial and error, right? Like, not taught through a formal setting, but taught hands-on. Teleprompter reading, doing interviews. People think interviews is just, you would be surprised, but people, and I want to make sure that y'all know, doing an interview is not just having a conversation with your homegirl or your homeboy. Even though it can attempt to look like that, it's not, right? And you have to have an intention in going into that interview. What is the intention of it? Are you intending to get out about the subject's film project, music project, book project, sports project? What is it? What is the intention? And I think that that's what I've learned in my work as a reporter and as a journalist, is always having the intention going in, right? Not just going in all willy-nilly, like we finna have fun and kiki. Oh, girl, I loved you in that movie. You was cute. You look cute. All of that is good for fluff, but you need to be going in prepared with intention of what it is that you want to come out of it.
So when you're with your friends that are in like entertainment and things like that, how do you balance on the record and off the record content as a reporter?
That's a good question. So break it down for me, Derrian. Do you mean like, if they tell me something, and am I keeping it, or am I telling it, reporting back on it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to do that. For some people, they don't want to ruin their personal relationship with the person because they thought they could confide with them and tell them those things because you're so tight. As a journalist, it's like you want to report the truth, but at the end of the day, you want to keep that relationship as well. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm very protective of my relationships, be it business, personal, my marriage. I'm just protective of those relationships because it takes time to cultivate a relationship.
Right.
And especially being a Black woman in this industry, you don't want to mess up, no opportunities. And, just off of good faith, that's just not how I roll. I don't roll like that. Mm-mm.
Just got you. And since you're a seasoned seasoned journalist, excuse me, what are your hopes for the future of journalism?
More opportunities for you and I.
Okay.
More opportunities for us. More opportunities chasing us down versus us chasing down the opportunities. I feel like with the George Floyd, case and everything that unfolded last year, that it opened a broader conversation as it relates to Black people and the lack thereof of opportunities, resources, and everything, right? In all areas, not just in entertainment, but across the board. And so that is my hope, is that more Black people can get opportunities in journalism and get in these rooms and get on these boards because we're talented, right? But the only thing that's missing is the opportunity. And so I think that if we can break down that barrier and allow the door to be opened and get away from those old ideals that, come from the olden days of you have to do this to get this and this. No, if you see somebody who's good at what they're doing and the work is good and they're a hard worker, give them a shot. Give them an opportunity. If they mess that opportunity up, that's on them. But put more of us in the door. Put more of us in the rooms. Allow for us not to have to fight so hard to be in the rooms, right? And that's my hope, is that we don't have to fight so hard and that we just have people knocking on our doors saying, hey, we want you to come work for us. That's my hope with journalism.
I like it. I want to say thank you for coming. We have one question in the chat so far from Ashley Tate. Ashley, if you'd like to come on the camera and ask your question, you can. If not, I can read it for you. All right, I got you. I'll read it for you. She's in the car. I got you. With you being such a versatile presence in the entertainment and style industry, what's the most important part about balancing all your passions when you're incorporating them into your career?
Okay, Ashley. I think that I'm thinking I have this question down. How do I balance both is what I'm gathering. We all have multiple passions and things that we're good at, right? And so I think it's finding opportunities that cater to the things that we thrive in and that we can be our best selves in, right? And doing those things. And so I find that I balance those by doing and saying yes to those opportunities that align with what it is that I'm trying to do in the road that I'm on, right? And not doing things that don't align with it, right? So saying yes to things that align and saying no to those things that don't. And I think that, that's important because you don't want to be creating a brand for yourself as a journalist, but then you are, maybe taking on automotive projects. I don't know. I'm just giving an example, right? Because it can be confusing. So you want to make sure that your brand speaks to who you are and what it is that you want to do, right? I hope that answered your question. Do things that align with your passions.
I'm sorry. If there aren't any more questions from the chat, I'd like to say thank you for coming, Ashley Dunn. We really appreciate you for coming here, sharing your information, sharing the light, bridging the gap for us. And is there any way we could stay in contact with you for maybe possible opportunities or just networking or just to speak with you?
Definitely. So my Instagram and Twitter are the same. It's at I am Ashley Dunn. And that's ASHLEYDUNN at I am Ashley Dunn. Yep, that's it. Mm-hmm.
And if there's not anything else, we at NABJ at Clark Atlanta University would like to say thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. And We look forward to your future projects in the future.
I look forward to y'all's projects, Derrian. I look forward to your sports show. I can't wait.
I could actually send you it if you.
I would love. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll email you. I got you.
Definitely. You have my email?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Send it to me. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Have a great day.
Y'all too. Bye-bye.
Bye.